once again, chaos is ensuing because I have taken over. It is not McVenom. Indeed, it is not. It is the awful Finity himself. And of course, joined with the not so awful Delete.
Hey, everybody.
And my microphone is not muted this time. I learned my lesson from previous times. So there we go.
That's what I was just about to ask you, because it was
normally
when you nail an intro, it's just like, yeah, we're on mute.
Yeah, no. I have fixed several things, and this is working. So there we go. And I have to at least I have to make sure we get the link out to people. McVenom will hopefully be joining us here soon. She had some personal things that she had to get done. But she's hopefully going to be able to join us here in a little bit. But in the meantime, we are here for The Bunker. That's right, The Bunker, the social state of survival stream every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, but not every Friday, because sometimes, like last week, we're on vacation, so we're here most Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern. There's nothing we can do sometimes. McVenom had a bunch of family commitments. It was Karma's birthday, so I wasn't here. So, I mean, it just ended up that way. But we try to be here every Friday. We try. So I can say.
Technically, I was here, but it was only because I forgot that we weren't doing a stream. So I logged in, and then it was about like 10 minutes in, and I was just like, wow, this isn't really that interesting, sitting in a Zoom room by yourself. So there you go.
Yeah.
I almost joined, and then I was like, oh, wait, I'll ask McVenom first, because I feel like that'd be really rude to just show up. And then I never got a response like, oh, okay, I guess we're not doing it tonight. Also, hello.
McVenom is very mad.
What's going on, Apex?
That's all I can say.
I have no idea. I almost forgot that tonight was Friday.
I need to start some heals. I need to start.
I need to do that too.
What time is it? It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to do 12 hours of heals.
Whoa.
Well, yeah, because once the stream is ending, I'm going to go to sleep, and then I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, so why the hell bother to make it shorter if I know I'm not even going to log into the game, right? I don't want to waste any time.
Very true. Well, I mean, people will log in, they'll make it a little faster, so you should probably do it for like 12 hours or 13 hours worth of heals, depending on how many heals you have.
True. Let me make it 14 hours. 13 point half. There we go. 13 point half. Really? That's
13 point half.
13 point half. There we go.
Already told, this is going to be an excellent night.
Yeah, we're getting off. We're getting off to a great start here. Hello.
Let's shake off that rust.
Oh my god. So if you guys would like a shout out, make sure you type something in chat. Last weekend was also Mother's Day weekend. That is true. I'm gonna talk about the confusion of the Mother's Day event too, because there's just I have to comment about something. But if you guys would like a shout out, make sure you do it in there. Feminist Sexy Wolf is in the chat. How are you doing, Feminist Sexy Wolf? We have Eric B. We have Ronnie K. Hi guys, welcome again to the bunker. And as I see more names, I will shout you out as well. We have a few things we're going to talk about. Probably going to be a little bit of a shorter stream because there's not a whole lot happening right now. There's some stuff, but there's not a whole lot. So we'll talk a little bit about what we have seen so far in the game. And I'm going to start off talking about the Mother's Day event. Now, the Mother's Day cash-in stuff is for this like knitted, you got these knitted sweaters, right? Which is fine. There's always one of these like little items that we get associated with it. What I don't understand is that didn't all of them show the old lady with Becca? Like all of them were old lady with Becca, right?
Yeah.
So
I think so.
That made more sense to be Julia Garcia.
That made much more sense.
Since, you know, that was actually her mother rather than the grandmother on Mother's Day. Like, I was seeing that, and I'm like, okay, I mean, you can celebrate Mother's Day with your grandmother. That's fine, but it seems like it would...
Maybe Julia was holding the camera? Maybe?
I mean...
Maybe Julia was busy?
I don't know. I mean, Julia abandoned Becca for a while in the first place, so I guess she could have done it again on Mother's Day. I mean,
That's a very good point. I mean, that's
how
a very
are we
good
doing,
point.
LC? Don't worry, I have been streaming RE8 a few times, LC. It is okay. Just, yeah. It just struck me as odd. Otherwise, they could have just done Becca with Julia. That would have worked. They could have had Julia being like an old person knitting a sweater, I suppose. It's just, she was busy with her mom. That's just awful. Just all kinds of awful there. So, but overall, I also found it seemed like the sweaters were not coming in as quickly as a lot of the other currencies that we've had in other events. Because there was only like one parallel event, right? Like usually there's like all the like one event typically has like 5 different other events in that little like special area, right? In the events, this one only had the one, so it seemed like it was like missing something. So I found it a little odd that it wasn't more, but I don't know. Delete. What did you think?
I mean, I thought the prize, rewards were kind of whack. I was just like, I was like, I don't need to go after any of these. You know, it was like I had a lot of this stuff already, and I didn't really need anything more out of that whole event, which is strange because typically, you know, the Mother's Day event and all the like holiday events are usually based around you buying packs, and this is the one, you know, that you really didn't need to buy packs for, you know, because a lot of this stuff was like, I don't really need it, so I can't really cash these in for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like very meh. I was very meh about it.
Yeah, and Feminist is saying the same thing. He said Mother Day event should be more than a small event. I agree. It seems like it should have been more. Apex, what did you think?
For being completely honest, I forgot the event was going on until the last day that happened. So I didn't even like cash anything in because I forgot to do anything for it.
Well, so that actually leads us well into the next topic. Because Apex went on a rant. Went on like
that was long. That was angry, and that was the.
It's so weird. Okay.
Is this like that one 28 and a half or something like that?
No, that's if you do everything on YouTube. So that's separate. This one is on my computer side. I think it's recovering now. Yeah, there we go. It's back. Sorry about that, guys. A little bit of a glitch with the signal in my OBS. I don't know what's going on with my OBS. I need to get that fixed. But if you missed it before I was talking about it, Apex went on a very angry rant earlier in this week about the marketing of mobile games. And so I'm going to let him continue his rant and do it on stream for us. But first, I am going to give you guys the first code for the night. Okay? So while Apex is talking, make sure you guys get in your first code of the night. And the first code is Head Nurse. HEADNURSE. Head Nurse is the code for the first code for today. So make sure you type Head Nurse in the game. It's just the way it is. You have to actually go and redeem your Head Nurse. This is what is happening. Okay, so while you guys are doing
make sure you get Head Nurse in.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, so we're gonna turn it over to Apex. Apex, have at it.
Dum dum dum.
All right, I'm trying to. All right, I need to
unleash the fury.
Off because I don't want to. No, because I want to make sure when I'm saying it, I'm being coherent. Because when I tend to get into this kind of topic, I'll go off in a lot of directions. So I'm just going to start with I'm going to start with what we originally were talking about in chat. I don't know if you remember, it was with Red Gear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was me and Jeremy were talking about what was next. And then I brought up in when I was going to college, a lot of my marketing classes, we had to write papers on marketing strategies of businesses. And because obviously I was playing mobile games a lot then, they were my main focus. I found it pretty interesting on how they go about making their money. And one of the ways they do this, I called a spending spiral, where basically there will be a bunch of different areas in the game where you can advance. Where here, let's just ignore everything except for hero gear, chief gear, and badges. So a guy like Delete, he's going to always max those things out pretty fast, like he did with red gear. I saw is very good for you, Delete. That's horrifying.
Yeah, I'm done. I completed with the last limited supply. So for everyone that's watching, it took me $150 to max out my chief gear, which all of a sudden with everything that I have in it wasn't really that much money. So that's why I did it. But that was only because I had so much in my backpack that it literally just took me clicking of the button. Sorry to go on.
Oh, no, that's fine. But there's people like Delete that are going to be able to do that. But with the spending spiral model, they try and prevent what he was able to do. Where basically you will release one way to increase your power in areas. So with the red gear or red chief gear, increase that level. Then next you're going to move on and increase the hero gear level. I'm not saying the devs are doing this right now. This is just what I've observed from other games. So the devs are now working on increasing hero gear because people have these big stores of hero gear up, since a lot of people, or when I say a lot of people, I mean, I'm talking about like upper end spenders, people that are maxed out. Like Delete, how long have you had max hero gear, would you say?
Ooh, it's gotta be close to 6 months, 5 months, 6 months.
Yeah, so Delete probably has an ungodly amount of hero gear saved up. So they're going to increase that threshold as well for him to reach. But they need to do it in a way that he can use up all of his stores, but he's still going to be forced to buy packs. And then after they increase the hero gear, they'll go and they'll increase the badges. And then whatever ungodly store of badge material he has, he'll use. And then we're going to go back and we'll hit the chief gear again. And then they'll raise the threshold and we'll get the next 2 levels of red chief gear. But they're going to increase it in a way so that even though Delete has had it maxed since it first came out, he's not able to save up enough to instantly max it again without buying a bunch of packs. Does that make sense what I'm saying so far?
Yeah, I can see that. Like,
I'm coming off a 14-hour day, so I'm tired.
I can totally see that. Like, that would be the scenario where, they're just going to make it where, they'll look at everyone's backpacks and see like what they have in store, similar type like max players, and kind of go and be like, all right, well, we're just going to make it this much more expensive for them. So this way they have to go ahead and contribute if they're not playing, because that's the biggest thing is like the reason I have or has had as many stores as I did is that I still participate in Horde and, Trap when I can, Trap a little bit less. So I'm going to be suffering on like hero gear parts, but I have an insane amount of hero gear parts. Plus, because I took it in like PTR and saw that chief gear was coming, anytime that the like res raid store opened up, I would buy, the appropriate maps or alloy or glue in order to kind of like, consistently build that up. Now it's got to be a shift of focus to probably either badges or, which would probably be next, or hero gear pieces, like going to red gear for your heroes, so, but yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that like they institute a new upgrade to make sure that a max player just can't do it. just because they play,
And you're a bit of an outlier because one of the things they bank on, and from a lot of other Max players I talk to, because I'm trying to, branch out and speak to other people to get their input on things. A lot of them don't do anything in Horde. Like they'll be the person who'll send their march to the HQ so they get their stats. But sometimes they don't even send a full march. They'll just send 3 troops and their best heroes so everyone else can pile and get rewards. Or they just set their 1 rally for trap and that's it. So they're not building up the way Delete is building up. So then when these things come out, they spend because they know these people are going to want to be the best and stay the best of the best.
Yeah.
The entire model products. Yeah. No, on.
No. I mean, that's exactly right. A lot of the Max players that I've spoken to are just like, why put the effort in when I'm just going to buy it? Which is, to me, just sounds crazy. Because if I can buy something at a discount, I'm going to buy it on a discount, no matter, like how rich I am or whatever. I'm not like, I live in like a mansion or anything like that, or I'm terribly rich or awfully rich or even rich at all for that matter. But it's like, the game rewards you for playing. It does. It doesn't reward you enough to be a free to play and be like a top tier player, but it does reward you enough if you consistently play and you do the right things. I would say it could reward you more. I mean, there are certain things that they used to not give you, like you used to not be able to get, tactical design maps ever, like you had to buy that stuff. You couldn't just like earn it in rewards. And then they kind of changed that, model where there were certain events that came out, not frequently, but that came out that you could earn those. It's rare, but it's still there.
And that was another thing I was going to bring up is a lot of times with this model, what they'll do, which I was really surprised with the red gear they didn't do, is in another game I play, War and Order, when they increase their equivalent to like the chief gear to the next level, which was from orange, I think, to white, they added a whole new piece you had to have. So then even if you stored up a lot, you're still going to have to buy this new white piece, which I'm surprised they didn't do here. And now that I'm saying out loud, I'm hoping I'm not giving any of the devs ideas. So please put your fingers in your ears and say la la la.
But
I can't even.
Good job.
I can't even imagine the backlash that would cause.
But that's actually
it caused a ton of backlash. And it caused a lot of backlash. They're like, okay, we understand. They gave everyone a little in-game rewards and they lowered a bit of the requirements. But I feel like they did the kind of bait and switch that I do at work when I'm selling cars. And they give you the price. They give you a price that they know you're going to get angry about. And then they say, well, here's the solution we have for that. And then they give you the price that they actually want you to pay.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine, because that would probably be one of the last straws if they diminish the value of something that you already had just because they wanted to make it so you pumped money into the game. That would be crazy. That would be so crazy.
It just depends on the extent, though. It's a fairly common practice, especially with these things, right? Because if you accumulate too much of it, there's no point in them releasing it with just those things, because then there's no money in it for them, right? So it is a common thing to introduce a new currency, a new item, something you need in order to do the upgrades so that you can actually have something that people can buy. But like I think what Apex is talking about, if the cost to kind of do it is way too high and it does greatly diminish everything you built up, right? It's shouldn't be the only thing, right? I think you would agree. Like you need something, because if you've already bought something and you've collected this over time, and all of a sudden the new one comes out and you're able to max it out without having to spend a single dime, that's not necessarily a good business model for them, right? And it also makes it so your investment, like if you're a spender, you want to be able to spend in order to give yourself an advantage. So if people have already spent, and all of a sudden now people that have just saved because they've had nothing to spend on don't have to spend anymore. There's really no way for you to get the advantage that you could potentially get. So there's a lot of reasons to introduce like a new item, but yeah, the amount that they introduce is also really important. So if they make it too high, then I can see like a revolt. You just see too many of them, and you have to invest way too much in order to buy like 3 items. Each item costs like $1,000. Yeah, of course, everyone's gonna revolt. But if it's like you need 5 items and each of them is like $20, then it's like, yeah, it's $100 here that you have to spend, but you have everything else. So there's a balance to it. And I think Apex is familiar. We've talked about this with the other game that we cover, right? You never want to take anything away from a player, right? So if you make anything too easy and then you make it more difficult, you've taken away their easy access to kind of get to something, right? So exactly like Apex is saying, it's a common strategy, and it's the better strategy to use, especially in games where you make something more difficult. You make it cost more, and then you bring it back down, because then it seems like you're giving something to the player. You're giving them that reduced cost rather than taking away the reduced cost from them if you made it too low to start. Ideally, you make it right the first time, but it happens that you don't.
Yeah.
So it's better to err on the side of making it a little bit higher and then just correcting it after.
Yeah, I mean, like even like here, like in the first, when Red Gear was first introduced in the PTR, just as an example, right? It was probably maybe a month and a half ago, and I was able to upgrade one piece fully and get to a second piece halfway with all the stores that I had, right? Now, when they actually released it in game with all the stuff that I had, maybe a month later, so I do understand that I am building up that much more, and I probably put more of a focus on gathering those pieces through like Res Raid store and every kind of event or whatever to kind of like get more alloy and things of that nature. I was able to go ahead and rank up 4 pieces fully, the 5th piece like halfway, just on the reserves that I had, just on the stores that I had. So it was just like, okay, that was like a pretty drastic difference, between the two. It went from like asking me for roughly $800 to asking me for 150, which was basically the difference, for what it took me to max out. To max out my chief gear all the way through was $150, which isn't a tremendous amount to be back at a max player. I mean,
have actual equations they use to predict how many people are like delete who are actually actively saving and who are like other people who are just going to spend and other people who are only going to do it moderately. And
give me 1 second here, guys. It's bunking up the connection again.
Oh.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Excellent.
Weird.
Especially because they can look in your backpack.
Oh yeah.
And they have. They were like, before they did trade events for like unused stuff, they would just go ahead and like pull it out of your backpack and then automatically give you something in reserves, and like in your mail to like, here you go. Well, this event's never coming back and these pieces are never going to be used again. So we're going to go ahead and do this.
I have never had a game do that before, but I've had a lot that like very clearly were looking in my backpack and were like, oh, he has this many items. We're going to offer him this specific trade that only he will get and no one else in his alliance will get. There's a lot of stuff like that, but
I'm also surprised.
We're back, by the way.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's happening right now. I'm trying to see if I can get it to fix, but Delete and Apex are back, so continue, guys.
What were we saying?
The formulas.
They're like, how companies have equations to map out like, or guesstimate, how much a new piece is going to either cost, or how much they're thinking that I will spend, to do it again. Do they feel like, would he put 500 in there? Maybe not. Would he do like 100? It's probably pretty likely. I mean, because they definitely, everything now is data based, and there are algorithms, and there are the ability for this game to go ahead and check your backpack and modify your backpack at will, like whenever events end sometimes. Before they were like the trade or swap events that they have now, they would just go in and just be like, oh, we've taken all these items that, are no longer coming back in game, and we're just giving you these rewards for them. There was never a like, okay, well, this is, worth whatever, so we're giving you this. It would always come back as like maps, or, the search maps, or food or wood, or, like resources. So which is still kind of strange. Kind of feels like, well, if you guys can really, I'm not keeping complete tabs on what's in my backpack all the time. So stuff could change in there and you would have no idea. Yeah. Or at least I would. Which is crazy because you have no idea if someone's robbing you or not.
I mean, with some of the exchange rates I've seen in this game for different things, it feels like it sometimes. Like with the was it the ticket event where you can trade in the old stuff that you didn't turn in? It's like, oh wow, I just traded in all these things I could have used on like the that bow event, and I just got like a bunch of those 5K resource packs. Like, that's great. I have about 15 billion in my backpack right now. That really helps.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, that's just an awful thing. Like, I look at stuff that's in my backpack, when it was our event, we were so close to getting squeezed out and like dumped into, in Throwdown, going to like down a rank. So I went in and I was just like, and there's like a couple events that I can do, like purchase packs. And the only pack that was actually worth it for me to buy was to buy hero packs for the ones that you can exchange for like Emma, or, like the 3 characters, with Alex and Emma. Alex and Emma, is that what it is? Jesus, why can't I remember the last generation of heroes? Anyway,
voucher, that was Roxy.
Yes, yeah. So it was like the Roxy bundle. So all those heroes were already at general. So I no longer needed the vouchers. So I have 270 extra vouchers that I don't need and I couldn't use, just to go ahead and like get the Alliance out of the basement and up 1 level to stay in champion, to get the gold, blank, hero cards that I know everyone needs, to rank up. So it was just like, damn, but now like the game has no promises to actually ever kind of like make that be able to turn into anything else. And when you have every single hero at general, everything that I get towards a hero right now is completely useless. Completely. Which is just a shame, because those are expensive pieces. And they're just gone. It's just money. I
think one thing a lot of times, they'll market towards people like you who are fully maxed, but a lot of times the main focus of a lot of companies is the middle of the ground, the people that want to be like you, like me, who can't quite, or who don't want to spend that much to get there. So they try and incentivize them for these smaller things. It's like, it might not be worth it for you to buy the Roxy pack because you have everyone at general, but my Jeb and Wolf, and I forget the doctor woman's name, are still absolute poop. And I still need to get them up, but
she comes in clutch. I'm actually doing the survival challenge with her. What's her name? My survival challenge team is her, Daryl, and the guy with the chain, Trish, exactly, and the guy with why can't I remember what his name is now? I have to go in game.
Which guy?
With the little girl on his shoulder.
And then Eli.
Emma and Eli.
Oh,
I kept saying
Wait, that was the
Alex.
generation you just had.
yeah, Emma
Yeah.
and Eli.
Yeah. And they're already gone. Emma and Eli are already gone for me. You know, it's Martha, Luca. I went ahead and changed out for Daryl, and I used Jess. And for the survival challenge, for the Walking Dead survival challenge, I use Emma and Eli, Daryl, and Trish because she just restores so much health. It makes it so much easier to just kind of like do whatever and still win. So that's where I'm at there.
All right, let's take a quick second here to shout out all the other people that have joined the chat since we started here. Froggy IP has joined us, one of our longtime viewers. Hey, Froggy, how are you doing? Glad to have you here. Let's see who else is new. I saw Maz. Maz is here. How are you doing, Maz? Tal is here too. 359 RSG is representing right now. So welcome, guys. Sin is here. How are you doing, Sin? Glad to have you here. So yeah, so right now we're just kind of discussing a few different things about the marketing and the way the game has kind of gone. There was an interesting comment. Eric B said this game is the most compensating in comparison to other games from what I've heard. I'll let you guys talk about it from your perspective as well. What I can tell you from what I've seen so far, being that I tried to be free to play, your money goes a lot more before your state has plasma. And once your state has plasma,
down.
your money does not go as far. Each dollar is not as compensating. Because early on, you can get so many different things that will allow you to boost in order to compete in every single event, right? There's a whole bunch of things. All your resources mean more. All your speed ups mean more. You have to time when you like level up your building, all these kind of things. Once it gets to the point where your state has plasma, it is just all about basically plasma. That is it. So all your resources.
I want to dispute that fact.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to dispute that fact right now because of Bunker today, which you missed. We fought a rally of 3 plasma 5s, a plasma 4, a plasma 3, and then the rest were plasma 2s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only plasma 5. I mean, granted, I have T11s, but one of the plasma 5s also had T11s. And then I had Nikki's a 2-star, Zoltan's a 4-star now, and then Tal, and then Gon. So it was just me with my T11s and then my Plasma 5 riders. Zoltan was Plasma 4, and then it was one person with Plasma 2, 2 people with Plasma 1, and then T9s, and we whooped the crap out of them, even though they had much more higher tier troops.
Oh,
just because
your stats.
He did not. It was stacked because a lot of people still don't understand. You can't just pump everything into one aspect and come out on top.
Yeah.
Like if
I do want to clarify. So what I'm talking about more is about events, not necessarily competition. So like event standings, it's all about plasma.
Okay, I took that completely wrong then.
Yeah, sorry. I was talking specifically about events in order to get like to the top. It is pretty much all about plasma. Once you talk about, if you're talking about like competition and actually trying to win like the PvP events, then you're 100% correct. It is all about the hero stats. But you have to focus on one or the other, right? Versus pre-plasma, you kind of work on everything at once and you get the boost all at once. So your money kind of goes towards both of them versus post-plasma, there's kind of that split. You have to kind of decide whether or not you're focusing more on events and plasma and building upgrades, or if you're focusing on your stats, and that depends on where you are with your alliance. And then, of course, the higher end spenders, like you both, are probably getting both of them, right? You're getting both the plasma, you're upgrading your buildings, and you're getting all your stats because you're kind of like the main plasma 5, the highest person that's leading the rallies, right? So that's why I would say that actually the game is actually fairly good in sucking people in because it makes you think like your money goes far at the first stages of the game when you still have the state intel, once state intel ends, it's just a cluster at that point. It's basically spenders separate themselves from everybody else. So you have to spend a little bit more in order to get that advantage that you could have gotten early on. So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game probably one of the best games I've seen that is like, you put your investment in, and the first investment that you put in, because to start the game over is very time intense. Like the upgrades are still in like less than a half hour for a tremendous amount of upgrades for a good amount of time when you first start playing. Right. So you're like playing the game, you're playing the game. You're just in there. You're just jamming on it. Next thing you know, you're like, wow, okay. I'm like, level 20, like, all right. And then the next thing you know, it's like, all right, now things start getting into hours. And like, you're not even at the days yet. You're not even at like the 20-day mark for certain things. And like, before things start getting like really excessively crazy. So it lures you in that way. And then you're like, all right, well, I'll go ahead and get the second builder. And then I'll do this, and then it's like, by the time you start to like really crest at like, I'm about to put real money into this game, like, wow, you're already at the point where it's like, I can't give up now. I've already done all this, that is probably one of the best games I've ever seen at like, you continue to play because you've already put so much time in, and you've had those relationships that are building because everyone's on all the time. So you're getting to get that excess chat, that excess like, oh, this alliance seems pretty cool. This is pretty cool. The battles are pretty cool. Everyone's pretty even. Everyone's kind of progressing at their own pace. Some people know how to do things. Some people have researched how to do things. Some people have no idea what they're doing, but they spend. Whatever the case may be, you start to see the different dynamics develop in game. And then you just look at it and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna keep playing because, I've already got all this into it, and I think a lot of that, a lot of the retention in this game is based off of that fact, where people are just like, oh, I've already got, what's a little bit more? Because I'm already so far in, what's a little bit more? Like other games that I've played, like completely don't care, that how long you've been playing or what you've been doing. It's not even like a question in their mind, like what's going on. Like Marvel Contest of Champions is a game I was playing for a while, and it was just like it was unrelenting how like new character came out. Oh, you get the new character. Wow, new character sucks. Wow. All right. Well, new character comes out. Oh, new character. Let's upgrade him. Oh, wow, this character sucks. And it's just like, it was just like unending asking for money and unapologetic about it, altogether. And it was just like, they gave you a very small window to which to get these new characters. And if you didn't get them in that time, then it took you a really long time to not get, to like ever get them again. So it's like force buy or don't buy and lose. And if the character works out to be good, you're screwed. If the character works out to be bad, you're kind of screwed too. So it's just like, all right, I've had enough of this game. It was very easy to leave. This game is much tougher to leave because you feel like you've just established much more. You're more personally invested because of the time that you put in, and the money that you put in. No matter if it's the dolphin spender or someone that's even free to play, they're like, well, I've spent all this time. Why am I going to leave this now? What's really changed? It's going to make me leave now as opposed to before, right. So it's very good in that regard. It's probably one of the best I've seen in that regard. And there are a lot of kingdom builder type games, but this is the one that kind of like has such a high retention.
Mm-hmm.
This one is the greatest Kraken generator I have ever seen in any mobile game. Like by far, just going, because I've played a lot of mobile games and a lot of kingdom builders going through, and I have never seen one that has this many massive spend. There's like, you go to any state, there's at least like half a dozen people that are considered like mega Krakens who have max everything.
Yeah.
And that's just insane. Because I just remember playing like games in the past where it's like you were very lucky if you had one person on your entire server that was like that. It's just
right. You know,
this is
like,
the people in this marketing team are very good.
There's a buzzsaw in every state, without question, which is crazy. You know, I mean, there's different levels, but like our SVS matchup is like they've got I think so 125 has 7 or 8 max accounts, maybe 9. You know, there's someone that's like right there, and that was before Red Gear. I think full Red Gear players, there's 3 in 125, and I feel like in the SVS state that we're about to play, you know, it looks like there may be 4, which is crazy. You know, I mean, that's an investment that's like it's not cheap to become a max player, even if you do it as effectively and as I have or as efficiently as I have. It's still not cheap. I mean, it's the I don't know, as my friend used to say in Marvel Contest of Champions, like this one mobile game is a pretty nice car. You know, it's a nice used car. You know, and it's just like when you look at it that way in comparison, you're like, yeah, I mean, it's a used car over time, but you know, it's kind of like, you know, you're kind of making a payment into the game, and it's pretty insane. You know, because games that do microtransactions. I mean, what was it? Candy Crush was killing it. What was it? The first one that was like that found that it was like easier. It was a
huge one.
It was easier to get $1 from 1 million people than 1 million from one person, and it was like, see, this proves it. You know, it was just like we're doing like 16 million a day or something crazy like that. I think it was even more than that, frankly. But you know, I mean, and these aren't even microtransactions. I mean, these are like, all right, you know,
these are macro transactions.
Yeah, I'll get a 5-pack. Ooh, a $10 pack looks pretty good. $20 pack. Oh, well, 50. You got it. Well, I'm already at 50. Might as well just go to 100.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane.
No, it is pretty interesting to see how they're pushing the game a little bit, and kind of, I mean, Apex, what were your thoughts? I know I'm going to put up the second code here for everyone. So the second code, while we kind of continue the discussion, is the Nurse Jacket, THENURSEWILLJACKIT. The Nurse Jacket, all one word, is the code. They really do listen to our streams. It's just, it's just
pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Their Nurse Jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not like denim jacket, like Jack It.
Yes. And
let that sink in.
McVenom was talking about how nurses steal stuff. So let's just that is what she's talking about. We'll just keep it in context. Oh my God.
You completely made me lose my train of thought, and I need a minute to remember what I was thinking of.
Well, we do have another topic to discuss too.
No, I remembered. Be quiet.
Go.
This was to do with, I didn't want to bring it up earlier when Delete was talking about the thing with like Marvel Contest of Champions and everything, but with the new plasma levels coming to HQ, that was the thing that kind of set the wheels going in my brain that made me think of the spiral, because Plasma 5 came out how many months ago? Like 6, 7?
I would actually even think sooner than that. Well, I guess once Plasma hits it you automatically go to 5.
Yeah.
It's just how fast you can kind of do it. So,
well, I remember when I was first hitting or when I was like just about to make my big boost from Plasma 1, I was going to go straight to Plasma 3. They released Plasma 5 that capital, and I'm trying to remember exactly how long ago it was, but that's what reminded me of the spiral, because I remember Plasma 5 hit, and then we only had about 4 months, and then the T11s hit, and that was the next big Plasma thing. And now we're getting HQ 6 through 8, and it just reminded me of a progression we had in a different game where they were hitting the alternated between your building levels and then your research levels, and then they would go back to building levels. And they had it in, it was amazing. They had it in such a way where it didn't matter like how much you would put in, you would never be able to quite catch up. Even if you were to buy every single plasma pack from after you maxed your T11s until the Plasma 6 through 8 came out, you wouldn't be able to max it day one. You'd have to continuously pump money in, because they would increase the amount you would need by just enough. And they would do the same thing with speed ups. Because I know, Bleed, how many building speed ups do you probably have? 10,000
Oh my God.
hours?
It's
30,000 hours?
It's insane. I'll tell you right now. Let's see.
Yeah, they set these things up in such a way where they'll take people like Delete and they'll average how many of these speed ups that he's not using, because he obviously has everything maxed. How many is he not using, and how many can we get him to use or buy so that he will spend more in packs, but not so many that he will get frustrated and we could risk losing a high-paying client. And that's why
I have 26,000 5-minute speed ups and 4,700 hours construction speed ups. And my research is pretty much just as ridiculous.
That is.
That's just a lot. That's so many. I thought I had a lot.
How many do I have?
It's
My speed up.
it's
So
just
It's
just
so
a
yeah,
lot.
they
I have
look at.
5,200 5-minute, and I have.
Oh, Finn has more than me.
I have 501 hours.
Yeah, they're what I feel. This is just like the mode that I feel like the game is trying to get into, where it's just going to be a constant cycle where you're not going to quite feel bombarded by the updates, but they're going to happen just enough where you can never quite catch up with them. And they're going to hit a certain tempo where it's just going to become like second nature. Like you're going to max out your 6 through 8, and then you're going to have to make sure you're getting all of the research packs you can, because you know in 4 months they're going to release the T12s, and you're going to have to pump X amount of plasma, and you're going to need to use approximately X amount of research speed ups.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense in some ways, right? Because it makes it so that if you miss spending the first time, right, the catch-up is longer than if you don't buy something the first time.
Exactly.
So it forces you into that mindset of, oh, it's here now. I probably should buy it, otherwise I'm going to miss out and fall behind. And they still provide a catch-up opportunity, but the catch-up opportunity forces you into a habit of spending kind of regularly, right, in order to keep up every time.
Exactly.
So
they make it so you're penalized if you're not constantly making sure you're topping yourself off, but they're not making it quite seem like a penalty, because they bank on people like Delete that are going to get it instantly. So they'll drive the people that aren't quite at Delete's level, but are kind of close, like the near max people that don't have quite, or maybe they're not quite max research, or they're maybe like an upgrade off of T11s or something, to push them to pump that extra money in, because that oftentimes can be a game's bigger driving force, is the people that want to catch up with the top, that are in that middle ground, not the people that are actually at the top.
Yeah, without question. In the game, like the game punishes you for being the first to max, right? Because it's always more expensive in the beginning. And then different packs come out later on that kind of like are cheaper to kind of get more than what you get from the beginning. Like it was, like the states 1 through 100 had nothing but plain bundles to buy, right? That was the only way that they could buy stuff. Then crates of choice came out. Then it was like limited supply. And then it was, survival of the fittest packs. And, certain packs started to come out. The like depth of the packs that came out started to become more varied. So it allowed people to kind of basically catch up, at a lesser expensive cost. Because this game is like, yeah, you can go ahead and like, as soon as Plasma comes out, you can just buy Plasma and it'll cost you a fortune. Or you can wait until, the different bundles come out that'll make it so much cheaper. Because it was like, buy Plasma only in bundles. Then Plasma Lab came out. And then it was crates of choice that came out. And then a limited supply for Plasma, came out. And it was just like, wow, it's a lot cheaper. Like Plasma Lab was by far the best thing that came out in the game for Plasma, because it was like, it just allowed you to grow so much faster. If you utilized it as efficiently as possible, it allows you to cut costs tremendously. So don't sleep on Plasma Lab, anyone watching, because it's no joke.
If you can buy one pack in the game, I would say Plasma Lab is probably one of your best bets. If you're like only spending like maybe $100 a month, get the weekly, what's it called? Wild Racing. Get one of the 30-day VIP things for $5 and then buy Plasma Lab.
Yeah.
That'll boost you ahead of so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the VIP points you get for Wild Racing are pretty big. The rewards you get on there, and you actually have to dig through, because it was Jeremy that pointed it out. When you look at the Wild Racing rewards, it didn't show you like what you were actually getting in totality, which is kind of idiotic. But
yeah,
it's for the people that actually dig through it, it was awesome. It's like, wow, this is actually a legit deal. Because I remember we argued it on stream. It was like, what? Wild Racing?
It was literally the
Jeremy,
week before.
You're insane.
I remember we've argued about it, and then Jeremy came on the next week, and he's like, yeah, you guys didn't know that you actually get, like, what was it, 12K Chief XP, and you can get, like, 200 hours of speed ups almost, because it gives you, like, 6 batches of 4 3-hour speed ups plus 1 hour speed ups, plus, like, I think it's like 500 hero gear parts, which isn't that great, but
still, on top of everything else that you're getting, it was like, wow. I mean, the VIP people sleep on how much, your talent points, your basically your talent points for like your chief, comes into play, because the further you go on in that tree, the percentages go up tremendously. It's crazy how much that can affect a battle, to the point where I remember, the millionaire in 125 was at level 60, and like the next person was at level 52. And those eight points, those 8 levels made him untouchable. And it was just like, for a while, we couldn't figure out, like, I don't get it. This just doesn't seem right. Like, I don't understand why we're losing. Like you can't see that in the reports until you really dive into the reports, and you go, oh, it's his chief level. And it's just like, oh, now it's crazy. Now it's, now a lot of things that happen in 125 are based off of, are there enough people fighting at this bunker to do a double rally? And the other thing is like, are there enough people on to heal? And who has the most skins? Because that's really what it comes down to at this point. It's like, You know, like
The
the
war of attrition.
overall attack level is just there. You know, I mean, I think I've got an 8% spread on like the second place in our in our state, and that's about it. You know, so it's pretty tight. You know, but that's a lot of that is just constantly playing and getting those HQ skins.
Well, let's jump into the next thing, because I don't know if you guys have it. It sounds like you're currently doing SVS delete, so I don't know if you have it yet. But they're about to introduce the new SVS rules about the area around the capital being cleared out, and then if you hit somebody, they'll pour it out. Do you guys have that with your current SVS, or is that the next one for you guys?
Yeah, no, I think it's happening this time. So it's like anyone that goes ahead and tries to like bombard, you know, like the capital area, you're just going to get ported. And then you can't, if you port back, you can't use your shield again, too, because you almost get penalized for that. So very interesting.
Yeah. So
Finally,
what are your thoughts on
I love it. I love it. You know, it stops you from just parking farms and like maximizing and taking all that stuff out. I mean, it's probably going to go ahead and be a moneymaker for SOS, because it's just going to make people attack more people to get a good spot. You know, knowing that you can't just, you know, like you can't just hold those spots, and you know the invading is just going to be 18 tiles back. You know, it's going to make things a lot more interesting, you know, and as far as even just planning and, you know, beforehand, because then it's like, what if you're supposed to be, your alliance is supposed to be responsible for, you know, for West Tower, you know, and you can't, like the entire other invading alliance is taking over West and you can't get close, you know, it makes it a lot more interesting. Now it's like, all right, maybe we can rally this dude. Or maybe we can go ahead and, or woman for that matter, not to be sexist. You know, you have to basically tactically plan around that and shift on the fly if needed. So I love it. You know, it's definitely, I didn't think it was the easiest way to do it, but it's the way they chose to do it. And it's better than what it had been, for sure.
Apex, what do you think?
This is probably one of the best things it could have did in my eyes, just because my entire job in the beginning of SBS before was just clearing out as many spaces as possible, because I didn't really care how many of my troops died, and everyone knew that. So I would just be suicide attacking everyone that was plasma 3 and lower, pretty much trying to knock people out so we could get anyone we can closer. And now the fact that no one can shield in that area just makes my job a lot easier, and I like that.
So, and I see Sexy Wolf was saying it's in all states. It was supposed to be in all states. The only reason I was asking delete is because for whatever reason, their state is on a slightly different SVS and Survival of the Fittest schedule, which is odd in and of itself. So I'm wondering if it's going to be corrected or whether there's going to be like some states that are on an off schedule or not. Because 125 right now is doing SVS, right? And 359 is currently doing Survival of the Fittest. So
I actually had something on that, because they did it in a similar game I played. Is they would cycle which servers were doing the server versus server battles and which ones were just doing the internal battles. And that's how they kind of fixed the matchmaking in that game. Is they had a very similar problem where people would face the same servers over and over again. So they started doing a randomized, during this week or during this, how do they break it up? It was like chapters or something, they said. So this chapter will have all the odd numbers between 100 and 201 will be on this schedule. All the even numbers will be on this schedule. And then for 200 to 300, it'll be inverse. And that's how they kind of mixed everything up. And it actually was a lot more fun because we stopped getting the double matches, which are boring. I know it's a huge problem a lot of the older states have, where you face the same person 3 times. So hopefully that's what they're doing, and they're going to mix it up a bit.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And Sin is saying that they're off schedule because there's a group that has Migo and then the other group that doesn't. So that might be how they've separated it, which is kind of like what I'm calling the off schedule, because it's different than 359. That one may be all Migo and the other ones may be non-Migo. So that's definitely a possibility in terms of how they're doing it. It would make sense to why they're doing it. Hi, Letty. I see Letty has joined. Says she's a little late. That's fine, Letty. Better late than never. So, ultimately, though, the question with this change is, does it provide a true benefit or any benefit to the winner of prep stage versus the loser? Because you're still going to the loser's territory, right? They still have home field advantage of some kind, which means that maybe if they're not putting their lower bases, they may hold their spots earlier with their higher level bases. They're defending each other, so it's not the easiest thing to necessarily push those guys out. They have more time to plan for it in that case. Is there an advantage or any advantage that you can see that the winning state of prep stage gets from this change, or is it just a
easy
change that allows for some equalization? Go ahead, Apex.
You can burn the entire enemy state for the entire day if you want. And that's no. Okay, I'm going to elaborate a bit more, because that's like.
Okay, you've been waiting. You've been waiting this entire show to say that.
That's what he's wanting.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, going in though and just having a group of fairly strong people just torch an entire alliance hive is a pretty good strategy of trying to force people back. Because it did actually work a little bit for the last SVS that 359 had, where about halfway through, a group from the other state just kind of went in and beat the snot out of a few smaller alliances whose big guns went to the alliances that were trying to take capital. And then those guys were like, sorry, I got to go. Our alliance is being burned down right now by like 8 plasma 5s. And then we lost a bunch of high tier troops because they had to go home and try and defend.
Right.
So it's a legitimate strategy, and it's a lot more fun, honestly. Being able to just go and if you get bored with capital for a little bit, you can leave. You can torch a couple alliances. You can mess with people a bit, try and get them to come back to try and face you, and then you can take their spot in capital. And you just can just cause a lot more havoc being the invader. And then you also, if you win, you get that, what is it, like a 30% boost to all your governor buffs for the next 2 weeks. That's pretty good.
Everyone during SVS, if you're not in the top alliance and you're in the losing state, needs to be educated on the fact that get ready to bubble. Seriously. Otherwise, exactly what Apex said. I've seen that happen too, and I'm pretty sure I remember which alliance it was that was getting attacked last time, but everyone needs to bubble if you're not going to be like actively on during SVS, because they can move around, and some people don't even do anything with capital. You're talking about it as a strategy, Apex. There's some people that do nothing but go around to other alliances and just attack them because they're not interested in capital. They're just looking for kills, resources, whatever. And they just move.
The only reason I don't do that is because everybody yells at me because I'm a stronger person and I have to lead rallies. But if I didn't get yelled at, I would literally just be zeroing the entire state during capital.
Yes, you would.
And I'd be getting...
It's true.
And
Nero would join you.
So
it would just be you and Nero just porting everywhere and just destroying every hive that you could.
I wake up late for SVS religiously because I just can't afford to wake up at 5 a.m. or is it 3 a.m. or whatever the hell it is.
Like 2%.
It's 5 for us, I think.
Yeah.
I can't wake up that early and play and just game. I just can't. So I'll wake up at 7, 8, and then I'll get in there and I'll see that like we've got our tower under control. My right hand man is my number 2 Colo is just holding it down. And then I'll just go out, and lately I've just been blowing up 2 stars like it's my job. Just absolutely destroying them. And then in like an hour, I'm in the top 10 in points from just blowing up 2 stars and getting so much hate mail. Oh my God. I can't even imagine what the reports are with full red gear and hitting a 2-star. It was, I no longer, in the fortress battle we had today with 4.5 pieces fully done, I didn't have to double rally a base that was using, Roxy and Tamika and Ernie, like the defensive heroes with strong stats in there. I just completely just went right through, cut through it like butter. We didn't need to double rally. For the longest, we've had to double rally in 125, which was kind of annoying, but it was just boom. It was just dropping the hammer on people. And it's going to be an absolute massacre for those 2 stars that decide to just be like, yeah, I'll show up to Capital. I'll sit here on the outer edge and not really pay attention. Oh, it's going to be absolutely savage. Savage. So it should be fun.
Nothing feels better than porting into the center of a clump of like a maybe top 15 alliance from the other state that are just there for points, and then just knocking every single one of them out one at a time. And actually, I'm not going to talk about that because that's a strategy I like, and I'm not sharing that with anyone.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's no better feeling.
What was it? Sticky Fang. I don't even think he's playing anymore. It comes to the point in like the older states. Like right now, I've got 4 million troops. So I could eat an entire rally. I can eat multiple rallies, and just completely swallow them up, without question. So, it's like when we're facing an older state, you have to realize that they're probably going to have 3 million troops also. So it kind of gets a little dicey, like hitting like a 4-star base from an older state, because then you're like, I don't think my 165,000 troops are going to cut it, unless you just have crazy determination, which I have had in the past, of waiting for them to go ahead and launch a rally or join a rally. So I know their strongest troops are out, and then I just send 16 marches at someone to really hammer it home, because the first 4 might lose. The first 4 might lose, but then, everyone after that is just winning. So it's the last one that they're going to be able to it's the last rally they're going to be able to join for a while, and to beat up an alliance like that's pretty solid play, because you just, there's only so much you can do if you're evenly matched besides take out the joiners, because if the joiners can't join and they can't do multiple rallies and fill multiple rallies because they're so injured, and they're just like, oh, I'm gonna go in and hop off and heal for a little while, like that's a easier way to go ahead and get it done. Or not to mention if they're holding capital and they're taking the 2% losses, and they don't figure out the strategy of having 20 people in capital, so this way everyone's got a pretty equal amount of troops, and it takes 2% off of everyone. And when you have 20 people in there, to get, the 1.1 million troops that you have in there with 20, you can actually heal through that pretty well, but you can't heal through that pretty well if your base is just getting shellacked by somebody else that's really strong. So, there's multiple strategies to do it. And the fact that you can kind of get away and only lose 10% of your troops is pretty solid. Makes for a pretty fun day, no matter how you play it. Whether you're going for real estate or you're going for bases, you can really make capital whatever you want.
I'm really looking forward to Wall Breakers. I'll tell you right now. I think wall breakers are going to be a whole lot of fun in SVS, and I see people in chat were talking about it too. Wall breakers are going to be a good way to see how active your entire state is going to be, because if you have not just people that are plasma 5, but you have a whole bunch of other people with the ability to wall break and just they may only be able to do it once, right, during the actual capital fight, but being able to do that and actually make an impact, and if some of the smaller alliances coordinate and hit someone, because here's the question, I don't know exactly, you guys may know, if you get ported during an actual like fight, right, because your wall breaks, do the troops leave where they were?
Yes.
So if you hit the opposing state's like main person that is holding capital, and you time it at the same time as when a rally is coming in, you force a stat switch right at that time, and then these rallies will hit and take out somebody in the state. Like there are nasty things you can do even without being one of the top people if you coordinate like the entire state. So wall breakers once, and I'm really looking forward to it because it's going to be a lot of fun to have more like people in the state coordinating for a purpose other than clicking heal all the time, right? Or what we do a lot of times is just suicide into towers because we just need the points in capital. Like these kind of things would be actually a lot better. So I'm looking forward to all of these, and it'll be pretty fun. I think I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait.
If I get hit by a wall breaker, I'm gonna zero the person that did it. I don't care.
They'll be in that area. They'll bubble afterwards.
Yeah, then their entire alliance is getting zeroed. I'm not having any of that. I made it abundantly clear. There's not going to be any rules that are going to protect you from that. You're going to die.
Yeah.
Like I understand it's a fun concept, I know, but I just know the second someone does that to me, I am going to throw my phone to the ground. I want to pick it up nicely, and then I'm going to find their hive, and then I'm going to make everyone burn.
I love the fact when something hits and the base just disappears. It's one of my favorite things. Mm-hmm. Like when someone's yelling at me for attacking them, and I'm very nice about attacking people. I'll just hit you once, and then they'll start just talking smack to me, and I'll be like, "Watch, I'm gonna make your friends disappear." Poof, and I'll just DM them that, and I'll just be like, let's see how many other people are gonna disappear. It's pretty funny. And I did read somewhere that I thought they were instituting the fact that like they were only going to allow you to like, you had to be 3 levels from the person that you were wall breaking. So you couldn't send a wall breaker from your farm or something like that. I mean, you would have to put all the Migo time in there to kind of get that, but you would have to be a certain level. Like a level 25 couldn't just, send a wall breaker to a 5-star and just have them disappear, So I hope they don't, because it just adds a level of like you said, it just adds a level of just going ahead and just being like, I'm going to go ahead.
I actually do think it would help to do that though, because what you would have if you don't have that kind of level cap is exploitation to the point where people will create like level 6 bases or whatever is like the minimum in order to get the wall breaker, and then just use it to hit like the top guy, right? And you can create multiple accounts. You may not be able to create multiple characters on one account, but you can create multiple accounts. All you need is like a different device, some way to like log in under a different one, right? It's not that hard. You can create multiple different accounts. You would just end up creating a whole bunch of nothing but wall breakers, which if you had to get them all to plasma like 2 or 3 in order to hit a plasma 5, there's effort behind getting there. Versus if you can just do it at like level 10, like that's just too easy, right? People will exploit it. So I think they do.
Yeah, because then you could literally just eliminate entire player.
Exactly.
From and just be like, oh yeah, like this is, it'll take forever, or like there's no reason in me playing. They're just gonna wall break me. It's like being able to evict someone during capital over and over and over and over again. Yeah.
Probably the landlord.
Oh man. But yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, anything that gets you thinking about the game and different strategies is always of value. It just is. It just is, because then it just allows the people that can outthink you to play stronger. And that's what you want. You want people thinking about the game. You want people, like, when they're not holding their phone, they're thinking about the game. You want people, like, hitting up your content creators, looking for information about your game, because all it does is feed the frenzy, and people downloading your game. I mean, and that's, the participation in the game is it's the lifeblood, because then those microtransactions come through, and then, like, the everything about it, continues to flow. So it's a very solid piece. And it's a pretty good thing that I can't even imagine, who thought of it, but that person deserves a bonus.
I'd just like to say also, I love it as a concept. It's just, if it happens to me, I'm going to get very angry. But I do think it's a really cool, nifty little thing that they added in that, yeah, what Delee said, whoever thought of that should get a raise, because that's very out of the box and it's very niche and interesting how they have that set up. So it is going to take a lot more. You're going to have to plan very well to make sure your top guys don't get knocked out and then replaced in the front line during SVS. That's going to be,
yeah. Just, I mean, at that point, you knock someone out, and then you just drop a farm in their spot, and shield it for 24 hours. And now they've lost tactical position. And then as soon as someone tries to jump out and get them back in, you drop a farm right on top of it again, and you can take over someone's entire, position around capital and cost them so much, in just real estate, that it makes it even tougher for them to play, and that just increases activity, by far. Because then it's like, hey, we need our jumpers on, we need people to do this, and that's, that makes the game inside of a game even more fun for people that aren't, like, strong enough to really do anything else besides be a critical piece, to the game plan.
This brings up an interesting question, and this may be our last topic for the night here. So I appreciate all of you guys joining us for the bunker. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. I'll put up our last code for the day here for you guys while I ask one last question of these guys. And the last code is Nikki Insisted. NIKKIINSISTED. Nikki Insisted. If you're not familiar, yeah. We won't talk about this anymore. It gets us in trouble. So, so the question I wanted to pose to you guys, so it's about the wall breakers and kind of what Apex was talking about. I know 359 is a little bit different than a lot of other states. So we have a 359 perspective with Apex. We have the 125 from Delete. The interstate combat is very different between the two states. 125 is kind of a very hostile, all around, each alliance for themselves, right? 359 is much more cordial between all of the alliances. We try for fair fights, right? There's rules and everything in place. There's still battles going on. There's people that will get burned, so it's not like immune to that. But overall, a lot of the top alliances kind of work together when they can, and there's no real... They avoid having that animus, which sometimes can fester if you do go full combat. Like,
did you see the new rule that just got implemented between like the top alliances?
What is it? No,
they've kind of agreed among the big people of the state on top that they're only going to, like, actively fight for capital for 3 hours, and then they're going to kind of open it up after that to whoever wants to fight for it. So, like, within the first 3 hours, whichever one of the top alliances has the longest occupation time, they'll be able to choose the governor and everything, because everyone kind of got sick of playing their entire Saturday. So they kind of agreed on they're going to do, like, a shortened thing.
That's smart.
Yeah.
And so
it's boring normally.
To, like, the next question then. So let's go back to the wall breakers here. Do you think wall breakers will be something in, like, 359, for example, Apex, that the general rule will be keep the competition at facilities, bunkers, all of that, without wall breakers, and save wall breakers for SVS, for other states? Or do you feel like wall breakers will be allowed in state rules for a state like 359?
I don't really see them doing that, considering we've also made it so you don't attack people like during the Capitol. Like if you want a spot, I can normally ask someone in the front row if I can have their spot if it's like a 3-star or something. And they're like, oh yeah, sure. And then they'll move for me. It's kind of weird. Even people that I don't like will do that. We're a very, very odd state compared to others.
Okay, so you don't see the need to use...
Not at all.
Okay.
I can't see anyone using it except for maybe Kill, because they like to do things like that.
No,
They're
but
not
I'm saying
smart.
more for competitive advantage, not necessarily moving, because you can use it... I believe you can use it in Capital, right? For a Capital Clash, not just SVS, right?
Yeah.
I think it has to be around Capital, but you can use it during Capital Clash, not just SVS. So basically, is there a chance that one high alliance would use it as a strategy against a different one? Is the question.
Oh goodness, no.
Okay.
Everyone's too friendly in our state. All the top people, like they'll fight, but they're all pretty good friends. We got a very happy state.
I know. I like our state. I love our state, but yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about, is more from the perspective of the alliances at the top, even if it's for that 3 hours fighting, right? Is it something that they may use? Delete, what about you? In 125, if wall breakers are open, do you see them being used against each other within the state during things like Capital Clash?
I mean, I think even though our state is toxic, it's probably the best way to put it, like Chernobyl toxic, I would say that like our only rule is no base hitting against each other. You know, like, so that's the wall breaker would break that rule. You know, and I think there's only been maybe 3 people that have ever broken that rule that have actually hit someone while like a bunker or Capital was going on. So that's the one thing that we can all kind of agree on. So I don't think we would. I think we would only use it as an SVS function, primarily, purely for that fact. You know, and that's just kind of where that's at. You know, as crazy as 125 is, the fact that we've only got five alliances left, you know, and that's actually another thing that I would really like to know is what states are really working out better, you know, activity wise. The states that are friendly, like 359, you know, will they last longer than 125? That's like, I think it's only 5 alliances that really actually do anything at this point in 125. And it's just been nonstop merging and like getting people that are like, you know, we've got dead bases, people that haven't logged in 28 days or whatever the case may be, even longer in some cases. You know, who's actually playing the game better? Is it the friendly states or is it the fighting states? You know, I mean, it's a tough call.
I think we're honestly we're getting to the same boat, just like with people and other alliances I talk to. There's been a lot of merges happening recently because of inactivity, and we've kind of consolidated our state down into maybe the top 10 or 11 alliances, and that's it. So we're getting to the point where 125 is probably around the same rate. It's just kind of a natural progression for how the servers go, because regardless if people quit because they're bored or because they're constantly getting zeroed, people are going to eventually get bored with the game and leave, or have to leave because of life reasons. So
yeah,
there's no right way.
Most mobile games, that, you know, the shelf life of a mobile game isn't really that long. You know, it just isn't, because there's more games that come out. There's new games that come out. People's time, you know, the time availability that they have changes. Their life changes, whatever the case may be. You know, I mean, I would kill for more activity in 125. You know, it would be much better if like things weren't so consolidated into the top 3. But I don't know if there was a way to change that, just due to the nature of human beings. You know, if, you know, it also would probably change my spending dynamic if it wasn't so toxic. would I be still continually spending, or not even spending continually? Like, I wouldn't even say that, because my spending has, like, on a bar graph, my spending probably looks more like a bell curve than anything else, So it's just an interesting kind of thought. What's the best way to play SOS? Is it to just go absolutely bananas and then go from there? Or is it just to kind of like, hey, let's play friend? If I had to do it all over again, I would probably I'd probably get a bunch of people together, and, like, everyone would play as they wanted to until level 30, because I feel like Settlement 30 was probably when the game was most active and everyone had a chance to win depending on how they kind of structured their base. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as those capitals started to get into plasma, I'd probably restart the game and bring more people into that new state, where you have a constant flow of people that are playing with you that are doing the same thing. Hey, we got to 30. We just did 3 capitals. Let's jump to a new state and start all over, because the investment level isn't really that high. The activity level is through the roof, and the stuff that you do, it's still really fun. And at that point, you're just, you're doing the same thing. You're keeping the action alive, and just leave that dead base aside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a thought.
No, it's a fair point, and I'll shout out 2 other people. I see Daniel T's in chat and Liquid Snake. Liquid Snake is saying, "Man, am I glad to see you guys back." We're glad to be back too. We had some personal stuff last week, so we had to take a week off. But we're kind of back here. But yeah, I'll start to wrap it up here. I'm gonna make a comment. We're not gonna delve into it. I'm just gonna tell you right now, we're not gonna delve into it. But the comment is, this is why state merger, state migration, whatever it is really important. Because I think, to your point, Delete, and what Apex was talking about, the difference between like 125 and 359, for example, right? I don't think the attrition would change that much. There's probably some people that would leave a little bit earlier in like the more kind of violent states, right? Just because of frustration. You'd also have others that would be more into it because that PvP kind of side of them would kind of take over, and you'd end up with an Apex. Potentially building like that. Versus 359, you might not have as many people towards the top, but you'll have other people playing longer because they're able to play at kind of their own level. I think the main difference between 125 and 359 is actually kind of what Apex was just talking about like the new state rule that we're doing. It's the real life comforts you can get from a cordial state that allows you to maybe make your own rules within the game rules, because the game rules are kind of insane at some point, right? Waking up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday is not what everyone wants to do for a game, right? At that point, it feels like a chore, right? And it's one thing if it was like 5 a.m. one time, but it's every 2 weeks that this is happening. Versus if they made it so there was a rotation where it switches like 6 hours every single time, right? So one time it's 5 a.m. that you wake up. The next time it's 11 a.m. Then it's 5 p.m. Then 11 p.m. And it just rotates. You're waking up at 5 a.m. Eastern time once every like 8 weeks. And each time zone has something different, right? They could do something like that. But right now, there's really no comfort that you can give to players because they have it rigid set that way. Capital Clash, you have that ability if your state is able to work together, right? If your state is able to work together, you can kind of create your own rules within their set of rules for Capital Clash. State for state is kind of its own monster, and there's really nothing we can do with it. But at least every couple weeks or every couple events, right? So every 4 weeks, you have a little bit of a break at this point. So I think the difference between the two states is largely the player comfort, the game comforts that you can make outside in real life versus the in-game. Because I think players adapt to whatever state they're in. If it's a more violent state, McVenom has talked about it, right? She's talked about how when she started playing, she was getting zeroed all the time. She learned how to protect her troops. She wasn't keeping resources. She was hoarding those, so she was trying to build those up. Like, your strategy becomes different when you're in one of those states versus like 359. It's more everything else. It's like the timing, the way you get along with your state, how much you want to be involved in like state chat, right? Because state chat can sometimes be friendly. Sometimes it can basically be like Reddit. You don't know what it's going to be. And it may not be like the best environment that you're looking for. So that's what I would say is the main difference. But attrition is what is currently hitting all the states. And like Apex was saying, like our state is starting to merge, especially at the top. We're probably down to about 11, 12 like full guilds like worth of people that we can actually have. And it's just a natural progression that just happens with any game because you're not going to bring in as many people into the older states. You're just going to lose them. That's the only direction, right? At some point, you're not bringing in new. So the only thing is to reduce numbers, and the numbers are going to reduce at a certain rate, whatever it is. And then ultimately, you're going to have a state that either needs a migration, needs a merge, needs something in order to bring in that new life into the state, because there's no reason for a new player to jump into a state that already has like Plasma 5 with the T11 troops, soon Plasma 8, whatever it is. So
yeah,
it's just more, again, not going too much into it. We've gone into it a lot in terms of like possible solutions, but just again, regardless of what it is, the topic comes back. Something has to happen in order to keep all of the states, not just the older states like 125, but even 359 is getting to that point. To keep the states active, there needs to be a way that states can merge, migrate, whatever it is, in order to continue to keep like active population in all of the states or new state to keep the competition going. So
yeah, with that question.
If I could just say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
With 359 being as passive as it is, it does have some drawbacks when it comes to the SVS faucet, because like I feel like Delete State, because it seems much more violent than ours, is a lot better prepared for those state versus state things, because when it comes to state versus state, all bets are off. You don't have rules fighting the other state because you don't know who these people are, and most people don't particularly care who they are. It's just someone you can kind of let loose on without any rules. Delete State is a lot more used to that because they're a bit more Wild West. We have a lot of people that are used to having all these rules, and I've had, like when I was in, or I think it was like 2 SVSs ago, when I was leading rallies, I had people in the alliance messaging me saying, hey, this person attacked me more than 3 times. And I was like, okay, and? He's like, that's against the rules. I'm like, this is SVS. This is a different state. They're not following our rules.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're asking me that. It was just like, we were not, most of our state is not as well prepared as the Elites is, basically. And we face a lot of states that had a lot more violent upbringings, and it shows when we face them. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a level of activity and strength of the game that you get from being attacked. You know, I mean, you get to figure out like, all right, you know, I'm just going to send all my troops out farming, you know, because there was no tile hitting for a long time in 125. So, you know, your settlement can be completely empty of troops. So they could attack you as much as you want. As long as your warehouse was under its limits, you know, and you kept stuff in your backpack, you were completely fine. You know, the animation would show that you're on fire, but nothing would really happen. You know, it would be pointless for them to attack you. You know, those are all things that you learn from, you know, playing the game, you know, but it gets to the point where it's like excessive, you know, like in 125. And I don't fault anyone for the way they play the game. You know, the reason that 125 became the way it was is because, you know, there's one alliance that was just like, I'm not going to tell someone what to do with their money, is their stance. So if you want to blow up all your troops and take everyone else's troops with you, fine. If you want to go ahead and not do that, fine. If you want to just make someone's life hell, fine. You know, but then they, you know, it was like the opposite end of that coin was like, you're going to force people to quit that could actually become a valuable player. Or you're going to go ahead and basically decrease the amount of players to the point where, you know, you can't do that anymore because the only people that are left are strong enough where you can't just roll right over them, you know? So it just became like, you know, it became a paradox in a way because it was like, yeah, you could play the way that you want to play, sure. But what does that cost? Like just like if you want to drive your car a million miles an hour in a residential neighborhood, sure, you could do that, but you could also crash your car into somebody's house and destroy their entire life and yours for no apparent reason. So, there's always two sides to every coin, and like I said, it was like I'll never fault anyone for how they want to play, but every action has a just about equal reaction, and the dominoes that continue to fall, especially in the game. What is it? I've logged in 443 days in a row. Like the difference between the game now and the game before, could have been protected a lot better, to make the overall gameplay make a lot more sense. Because as it is now, if they could go back, some of those people that were doing the things that they did in 125, if they could go back and change the way that they acted, they probably look at it now and probably be like, yeah, I probably would have. I probably would have played the game a little bit differently because now the game's boring as hell.
I think that's actually, so to your point, Apex, I would take a slightly different view on it. I would say that one of the big differences in SVS between 125 and 359, based on kind of like the culture aspect, 359, I'll just say in general for this game, the biggest reason that I think people end up spending in this game is anger. Right? Somebody in their alliance starts to get zeroed by somebody that is just way more powerful, and they know that they can spend. They weren't really enticed to spend earlier, and then all of a sudden something happened, it triggered them, and then they spent and became a Kraken. Right? So what I've noticed, at least in 359, with a lot of our SVSs, and you can tell me because I know you ended up moving to a lot of the higher alliances, but it seems like most of the time we're facing states that just have more maxed out people than us, and we've ended up needing like 2 rallies in order to take them out. They take 1 in order to take us out, and it's made it more difficult. And I think largely that's because some of the top alliances, and this isn't to say ill of them, but the truth is, like, they're not always fighting each other, right? They don't have to worry about like the other person attacking them because we are a friendly state. So there's no incentive to constantly keep pushing, spending ridiculous amounts of money. It keeps our state fun, but also with some of the more competitive things, it also, to your point, it does provide a little bit of a disadvantage for things like SPS.
But that's also more of a match. That's a matchmaking issue more than anything. Like a state that's got 3 match players, shouldn't be going up a state that has 9 match players. Unless that's a spending ploy. Unless it's a spending ploy more than anything else. Like, oh, we're going to keep losing capitals until someone, steps up and drops their 16 digits somewhere. So I mean, could definitely be the case.
Well, what's insane is like today was the first time since I started playing that I saw the top 2 alliances actually fighting each other, and they weren't fighting each other. They were knocking each other off of tiles because one person accidentally tile hit another person from the top alliance, and then that's all they did. And they were talking about how, like, oh, we just started a war with the other alliance. I'm like, no, you really didn't. You're attacking tiles, and that's it. Like, I don't know. It's not a real conflict. And there's not a huge, there's most of the growth between like the very top people is mostly because they just kind of want to beat that other person. So they only go to like that just extent so that they can beat them. So there's never been a real huge drive for them to just like fully max out because they're just kind of competing more on a friendly level. And you don't want to beat the crap out of your friends. You just kind of want to beat them just enough so you can go, ha ha, I'm better than you.
Yeah. So it keeps the game. I think it keeps the game fun, but yeah, then in competitive things, it is a little bit of a disadvantage. So I've noticed that as well, and it's again, it's just the way it is. You can't tell somebody else to spend money, so that's kind of the way it is. We play with what we have, and I've had fun when I've been able to wake up for SVS. It's just way too early.
It's awful. It's awful how early it is.
It is.
It's awful.
All right.
I'm up at that time anyway, but I have stuff I need to do.
Yeah, I know. My first thought, and I normally wake up around 5:30, right? So 5 o'clock is a little bit early, but I will wake up usually between 5:30 and 6. But my first thought when I wake up is not to open up SOS and start to do capital stuff. It's just not my first thought. So I really wish they would just start rotating the time for it to make it more convenient overall. It'd be so much better that way. All right. Well.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I have one more thing to say.
Go for it.
Which is bring it back to something Delete said like 15 minutes ago when he was talking about the extremes with 125 of you're free to play the game how you want to play, but it's like it has that kind of double-edged sword of you play the game how you want to play, but it still has the consequences. I recently started playing on a newer state just to mess around with a few people from 359. Like, hey, let's just screw with people on a new state because they don't know what they're doing. I'm like, yeah, that sounds actually pretty fun. Let's do that. We get there. This is the state. Literally, I want to say within 6 hours of it opening, people are already trying to set state rules, and they've already made a state Discord. And some of the top alliances in the first day of the state are setting state rules. You can only rally someone once, or you can only or someone can only be solo attacked twice within 24 hours. You're not allowed to burn alliance buildings. You're not allowed to tile hit. You're not allowed to do this or that. And it's like people aren't even in the double digits of their HQ level yet, and you're already putting these things in. And it's
yeah, like, I feel like a lot of SOS right now is retreads. You know, it's people that are unhappy in the state that they're in, and they're looking to try and find, you know, another state to go ahead and like mold, you know, and build the perfect state, you know, because it's like, well, this isn't really working out in the state. Let me go ahead and just start a new account. You know, I feel like that's because that's how 359 was in the beginning. You know, it was like there were certain people that knew how to play the game, and then there were certain people like this is my third base. You know, and even in 125, they were like, I run an alliance in, you know, state 73 or whatever. And it was just like, what? This is, you know, like, it was weird, you know, but it was just like, yeah, well, we did this, we did that in other states. And I was just like, wow, you know, and I think it's like Herbalife, you know, where it's like, you know, at the people that are building the new states are the people that have actually already played in earlier ones.
And I think that's good, right? Because keeping the game as something that people can see as playing long term, I think is important early on, right? If you don't have states and you're getting zeroed every single day off the bat, you're going to get frustrated and just quit because you're not invested in the game yet. So I think to your point, like players have played this. A lot of them are probably the ones that are going into the older states or the newer states from older states. They have experience. They know what has worked with some other states. Maybe they watch things like our streams where we talk about like 359 rules and stuff. Or they're familiar with their own state. They know what has worked, what hasn't worked. And it's easy for them to know, like, okay, this is what we need to do in order to keep the state going. Because, to be fair, that's how 359 started, right? 359 was largely, like, a bunch of older people, including, like, McVenom, Nikki, I think Heartwork was one of them. There was a bunch of people, and I apologize if I'm missing, like, some of the names, but there was a bunch of people in 359 that early on kind of got together and said, this is what we need to do in order to keep the state from turning into a mess, which is what they're seeing in the older states. And the rules were set, and it actually kept it good from the beginning. So I think it works out well that way. Our state is I think our state is doing pretty well, but it is starting to hit the attrition. So I think it is important that they start looking at the migration and stuff to start bringing in new people so we can kind of keep that going. Because then, regardless of rules or whatever, people ultimately get bored with the game. It's been a while, right? It's over a year that this game has been out. Shelf life is around like a year and a half to 2 years for a mobile game. So if they want to keep it going and not just be another one that adds that statistic, they need to find a way to keep those players that are at that average or above that average. Okay.
I'm just trying to say there is a such thing as too many rules, and it's just like
Apex just wants to burn everyone.
No, it's not even that. I don't have a problem with like being told no, you can't just burn everybody. But if I can't attack someone that's sitting on literally 100 million food and wood, like 40 million iron, and then like 20 million gas. There's a nap between the top 20 alliances. You can't attack anyone. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
It's like you need to learn that you can't leave an unshielded base with no troops inside except for the T1s that you get from those beginning little missions guarding it, and have nothing happen. You need to learn somehow. It's
Mm-hmm. No,
I recognize rules are important, but I also recognize that having too many rules just makes a bunch of people that when the first SVS comes around, you're going to see a massive dip in the amount of people playing. It's like, oh, I just got zeroed. What the heck? I don't know how to recover from this. I've never been attacked before. It's just
hard. I mean, there is no happy medium when it comes to that. There really isn't.
No.
Because it's like the last thing you want to do is someone's having a tough day in real life and they are not able to log in and they just wake up to the game and they're zeroed. It's like, wow, oops, and it's like, I just couldn't get into the game to shield. You don't want to play a game that you have to be active on it 24/7. Oh man, I've shielded for 5 days in a row. And the half an hour that I missed, getting into the game, I got completely destroyed. That sucks, and that's something that could very well easily happen, Yeah. And it's a part of the game. It's a big part of the game, depending on how you want to play it. Especially when it just comes down to the fact that resources are just so unnecessary at a certain point in the game. To the point where it's like I've got 18 billion, food and wood that I'll just never, really 18 billion, what's going to come with that? That's basically an additional 3 million troops and healing them all for like SVSs for the next year. To even come close to touching it. So it's just like,
there, sir.
Yeah, it is for sure.
All right.
It is.
Okay, let me see if there's any other people before we start wrapping up here that have joined. Let's see. Blue is here. Welcome. Tess says we can't all be 125. I don't want to be 125. I like 59 so much better. Yeah, I'll just throw that out there. But welcome, Blue LaRue, Huda Baraki. I hope I said that right. Huda Baraki was excited for SBS, but it got ruined due to a lot of players who left because of one clan's actions. It's not just attack. Sometimes it's passive aggressive or straight up bullying in state chat. Yeah. No, that's why it's... Yep, King's Group needs to figure out a migration solution fast. Yeah, that's true. Each state is different, but each state will have attrition due to different reasons. So, yeah. Yeah. Blue LaRue, I know. I figured it out afterwards. Sin. I figured it out after. It took me a second. It's Blue LaRue. Yeah. So, but yeah, we mentioned it. We're not going to go too much into it because we've done that, I think, every single stream for the last, 3 of them, which is basically they need to work on a solution. There's a lot of different potential ones. None of them is going to be perfect, but at some point, perfect is the enemy of good. You have to just kind of go with one that will work. May not make everyone happy, but hopefully it is something, and it'll hopefully work out. But they need to do something sooner rather than later, because you already have people from the early states leaving. It is slowly starting to trickle down now. The attrition's at the point where 125 is down to 5 alliances that are active. 120 or 359 is probably, if you include the lower level ones, I would probably guesstimate around 25 alliances of active people, right? They're split up in some lower, they're probably split up in some of the lower ones, but you probably have about 25 alliances worth of people that are active, and only about 10 of them at a higher level. So they really do need to work on that. So hopefully they start working and looking at some of that if they haven't already, and there's a solution sooner rather than later. But yeah, and then of course I think we're all kind of looking forward to the way SVS is going to work with these new rules. And once we get wall breakers, I think there's a lot of fun to be had with this game. Let's just hope they give everyone a good reason to continue playing. So, Delete, any last words before we sign off?
No, keep playing. Keep playing and keep trying to make the games better. Thanks for watching and participating in the chat. It's always great to talk to you guys. Not only the panelists, but also just watching the people chit chat in the stream, man. I mean, this is we built a good community here, and let's keep it going. Yeah. Keep it rolling.
And then Apex, any last words from you?
Yeah, I want a cross-state kill event. That's about it.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say.
Yeah. No,
kill events should also come with like extra points if you destroy somebody's HQ. Not for nothing. There's
tiles.
Yeah, and like tiles, or like if you destroy someone's trap, it should be worth like 1 billion points. Because it takes you so long to A, build it, and B, destroy it, that if you can actually do it, that should be worth points.
Actually, here's one thing.
Reservoir Raid, where they basically created like a duplicate of your state and the duplicate of the other state, just put them side by side and just go at it. And then it doesn't affect your actual state, but it affects that mimic state. And the goal is just to destroy whatever you can in like a 24-hour period. And just go and just kill. Kill territories, kill whatever. It doesn't matter. Just kill. That would be kind of fun.
That would be
and all
really
the kills
fun.
Count. And all the kills would count towards your kill count.
That would be so much fun.
I think
I would zero myself so fast. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't even be funny.
You would. You would. I really do think it would be cool if they... And I think this is what they're figuring out, right? I think SVS and like Reservoir Raid are more of their successful things. I think they realize like players are more in tune, especially the newer states, I think, with fighting other states rather than fighting in their state so much. So I think those events have actually helped. So hopefully they kind of keep that trend going.
That was brought up day one on my newer state. We need to start prepping for SVS. And I'm like, dude, we haven't even had our first capital yet. Shut the hell up. Let me train my T3s right now so I can go gather enough wood to upgrade my HQ to 10.
Yeah. Seriously. Wow. You haven't graduated past crayons and you want to go ahead and just paint a Picasso.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah, we don't have infected scenes unlocked yet.
Buzzsaw is exactly right. The Purge. Except a complete free-for-all with a reset at the end. That's exactly what we need. Like a no consequence type event. That would be pretty cool. So, yep. So, yeah. And don't worry, Maz, I am not making a new account. I am not leaving 359. I unfortunately just had other commitments going on right now. But it's freeing up now that I'm like moved and I got a bunch of the stuff out of the way. Just side note, planning a wedding is a pain in the ass. I'm just throwing that out.
Oh my god.
So
you have no idea.
I can't wait for this to be done. But I think with that, one last note. This stream has been sponsored by Zombie Coffee. That's right. When you're up at 11 o'clock at night and wondering, am I going to have to do state for state tomorrow morning? You might need to get yourself a heaping mouthful of coffee. And what better coffee than Zombie Coffee? That's right, Zombie Coffee. Exclamation sponsor in chat to get the links to their Facebook pages. Zombie Coffee, the sponsor of McVenom and The Bunker. And she's not here right now, and I forgot to put the little icon down there. But Delete shows his thermos, so there you go.
I think you mean it's the Borger.
The Barker.
The Barker.
The Barker.
The Barker.
Yeah, we are Bjorker.
So,
miss you, McVie.
Yeah, I do. I talked to her.
It feels weird without McVenom.
I know. Yeah, she unfortunately had some personal things, and she's okay. Don't worry about it. She's okay. She is dealing with some stuff, and she has stuff with her kids. So, this is what it is. So, with that, once again, I'm Finn with Reality Skewed Gamers, with the State of Survival, the Burger, for Delete, for Apex. thank you guys so much for joining on this Friday night. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And then we hope to see you next week once again on Friday. Next Friday marks episode 50 of The Bunker. So we hope to see you guys there. It's kind of a big one. I had no idea if we're going to be doing anything special. Honestly, it's just, yeah. But we'll have some fun nonetheless, because we always have fun here on The Bunker. So
it'll be special because we're doing it.
It's pretty much it, yeah. That's pretty much it. And the big question, will McVenom show up? Who knows? Tune in next Friday to find out. She is going to kill me. Oh my gosh.
She's going to totally hate you for that.
She is. Yes, she is. All right, guys.
It's nice knowing you, Finn.
I know, I'm so dead. All right, so with that, thank you guys for joining, and have a great rest of your night. Take care, guys.
Rock on, Alan.
Rock on, Alan.